And it is always an honour to take part in this annual debate, commemorating, celebrating, protesting for LGBT+ History Month. I will start by saying I am incredibly disappointed, though, that there are not more members of the House here present to hear what I know will be a really informative, heartfelt, genuine debate. I know, as has already been mentioned, the theme for LGBT+ History Month this year is activism and social change. But given what the LGBTQIA+ community is facing at the moment in the media, in political rhetoric, I have to say that perhaps a more appropriate theme would be survival and existence. Powerful people, rich people, at home and abroad, punching down. Punching down, referring to the LGBT community as woke, snowflake, weak, fragile. And any of us know that the LGBTQIA+ community is far from all of those things. Because fighting for who you are, to love who you want to love, in the face of hatred, humiliation and persecution is one of the bravest things any one of us could ever do. And for the trans community, who have to live every day in a body that does not reflect who they truly are, that's courage, all against a backdrop of conversations about them without them, particularly for trans men. Some of the strongest, least snowflake people I could ever have in my life are from the LGBT community. I am so proud to call them my friends. They're basically my extended family. They're the family I chose. And they fight to be who they are, and they fight to exist now. I'm going to give some personal examples of when I was perhaps at my most weakest. As a straight woman, I relied on that community and my friends to hold me up because they had the strength when I didn't at that time. When I was in my 20s, when I used to go out, as Miley Cyrus says, you know, I used to be young, I was out with one of my gay best friends and my non-binary friends. We were out, we'd gone to a gay club, because unsurprisingly, and for whatever reason I can't possibly put my finger on it, I felt safer and able to have more fun in gay nightclubs than I did in straight clubs as a 20-year-old single woman of that time. I can't think why that might be. But we were on our way home. We wanted chips and a kebab. Standard, right? In the queue was a group of lads. They start giving abuse to me, sexual connotations, and me being myself, I didn't shut up. I didn't take that lying down. I gave as good as I was getting. They went ahead, and all of a sudden, when we came out with our chips and our kebabs, I could feel things hitting my head. They were throwing chips at us. Those chips suddenly became punches to my face, and they pushed me to the ground. And who stood up and fought for me? My gay best friend and my non-binary friend took on 5 blokes for me. I didn't stop fighting either, but they were there when I needed them. When it's come to campaigns, I've worked across different communities on all various campaigns, but particularly human rights campaigns. And when I've lost those campaigns, my dearest friend Paul was there for me to pick me up when I was crying, when I was broken, when I thought I couldn't carry on. But actually, he showed me the importance because of his experiences of fighting for equality throughout the 80s, throughout the 90s, and unfortunately now, through 2025. And my dearest friend Helgi, he was one of the first out LGBT council members of the Royal College of Anaesthetists. I have spoken quite often in this place about the multiple miscarriages that I have experienced. I couldn't have found myself at a more dark time than at that time. He was there in the surgery to hold my hand, to help me through one of the most difficult procedures to remove 2 of the babies that didn't make it out. And he was my friend when I was there and I woke up. That's the strength of the community. That's the strength of allyship. And right now, they're the ones being attacked. They're the ones feeling isolated. They're the ones feeling without hope. So I want to plead to every ally, to everybody, to use your voice to stand up for so many who have used their voices to stand up for our rights, our dignity, and our future as well. Yeah. We had an election last year, and I am so proud that one of my first engagements, it was actually my first engagement in Luton, official engagement in Luton, was Pride in Luton. And it was bigger and better than ever, and every year it gets bigger and better, and there's more supporters, there's more attendees, and there's more fun. And I took my family with me, and my then 4-year-old, she asked me, "What's Pride?" "What's Pride, Mummy?" And I said, "Pride is a celebration, but it's also a protest." And she said, "Okay." I said, Pride is a protest and a celebration for people to love who they want to love and be who they are. And her reaction, "Okay," and shrugged. And we had the best time ever. And I hope long does that continue. But we didn't get here without a fight. People didn't get here without a fight. And over a decade ago, we've heard some of the fantastic measures that the previous Labour government took place. We know that they removed the terrible Section 28 law from the statute books, passed a law allowing trans people to legally change their gender, and introduced the Equality Act to protect LGBT+ people from discrimination. We know that Labour also lifted the ban on lesbian, gay men and bi people serving in the armed forces, introduced civil partnerships, which, yes, I will give credit where credit is due to the previous Conservative government, paved the way for same-sex marriage, and laws to allow unmarried couples, including same-sex couples, to apply for joint adoption. I am pleased that we have that legacy and foundation to build on, but build upon it we must. The plans proposed in the Labour manifesto was to deliver a trans-inclusive ban on conversion practices, and at the Women and Equalities Committee yesterday, I am pleased that the Minister confirmed that that will be trans-inclusive still, and she gave her recommitment for that. We need to ensure that LGBT+ hate crime constitutes an aggregated offence in the same way it does for other hate crime offences. We need to bring forward a new HIV action plan, and I'm glad to see that many have spoken about that already. Right the wrongs endured by LGBT+ veterans, which I know this government is taking aim at, and modernise the law on gender recognition, and fix the NHS and recruit 8,500 more mental health workers. All of these are brave, they are good, they are laudable aims. But one thing that has been missing is a time frame, a schedule, for when all of these fantastic plans will be put into place. When will the LGBTQI+ community be able to feel the benefits of these laudable, great, good, beneficial aims? Because we have seen many in that community feel scared. It's not just looking across the pond and seeing that their existence has been completely wiped out by presidents and the richest man in the world. It is also a feeling that there is a row back here. And that is where I would like us to address some of the issues, and I hope the Minister will be able to rise, and if not, write to me to explain where we are with some of these points. Already mentioned is the indefinite ban on puberty blockers for trans young people. We held a Women and Equalities inquiry where actually I would like to say I'm proud that our entire committee, and I'm pleased to see committee members here today, although there was diverse opinion among committee members as well as the witnesses themselves, that debate was held with dignity, with respect, with evidence, with a willingness to try to understand, which I think has all too long been missing from all of that debate. I'm not yet to say what recommendations will come out because I will get into trouble. But I do think we need to be part of a solution. It's not just pointing out what the problems are. And with that in mind, as much as the Minister has said there were unclear risks of harm, we've also got to look at the unclear risks of harm of not being able to provide healthcare for trans people when they need it. What can be done to mitigate some of those harms? And we talked about vitamin D, we talked about calcium, we talked about healthy diets, all of those things that would address some of the concerns around puberty blockers. And why it is that the ban is explicitly only for their use to treat those with gender dysphoria. Why is it safe for people with endometriosis, with people with prostate cancer, or precocious prepubescence to take puberty blockers, and yet not so for those experiencing gender dysphoria? There was debate by people with endocrinologists with brains the size of small planets during that committee. It was incredibly informative. But there is much work to be done, but we need to make sure that that work is done fairly. We need to make sure that work is done inclusively, and we need to make sure that that work is done with the community, not against it. And there is also the reform and the plans to reform the Gender Recognition Act to make it easier for trans people to change their legal gender. I know that in previous articles, the Minister for Women and Equalities had called the process intrusive, outdated and humiliating in 2022. That is just as true today as it was then. And I would welcome from the Minister an update of when the GRA will be reviewed. Because while we all debate this, LGBTQ plus people are being isolated further, they're being targeted, they're being talked about, and that's coming through clear in the statistics. The number of hate crimes against LGBT plus people increased from 4,345 in 2011 to 2012 to 22,339 in 2023 to 2024. That increase is huge, and that is real people's lives. But also within that will be a huge amount of underreporting, because we know that only 1 in 8 people reported homophobic or transphobic hate crimes to the police. So the level of underreporting here, the trust that we need to build up, not just as a government but as a society as well, to protect the most vulnerable from crimes such as that, we have a lot of work to do. And when it comes to banning conversion therapy, it is something that has received cross-party support, and I would look forward to finding out when we will see a timeline for this ban to come into force and commit now that it will be trans-inclusive. We have heard that in the Select Committee yesterday, but I would be grateful if that commitment could be reiterated at the dispatch box today. And when will the ministers commit to a timeline to bringing forward the plan to make anti-LGBT hate crime an aggravated offence? We've spoken about the new HIV action plan and the work that was built on from the previous government, and I'm really pleased that we have that. It was so wonderful to see the Prime Minister casually taking a HIV test. That is something that we would not have heard of many, many years ago. We wouldn't have seen it. The stigma that the Minister spoke about and the Shadow Minister spoke about so eloquently, we would never have seen that, and my friend from Harlow as well. It's so important. Stigma is so important, but is also really difficult to break down when those that in power, in particular, continue to punch down. And we've seen that with President Trump's devastating cuts to US aid, which have left millions across the world without access to life-saving antiretrovirals. What will the UK be doing to fill this gap? Because as we have seen in the US, progress is not inevitable. It never is. I hope this government can address the concerns of the LGBTQI community and those who want to live in a society free from persecution and free from barriers to healthcare, services and safety, because we must stay united in the fight, because an attack on one of us is an attack on all, and hatred never stays in one lane for long. Thank you.